Okay, hello everybody, welcome. Today's video is gonna be a video essay. Firstly, I must insert a disclaimer here. Please don't look at my nails. Stop looking at them immediately. Look at them. Don't look at them, how dare you. So basically, I put on false nails and then I took them off. And then the next day I put on false nails and I took them off. And now they're covered in glue. And this is where we are, so don't look at them. Okay, so today's video is about, are black cats evil? I may be a bit biased because the woman I love most in this world is a black cat, but we'll see as the video goes on that the evidence is here to back me up in my points. She can be a bit of an evil bitch sometimes, but I'm joking. She's actually the sweetest, most delightful cat I've ever experienced in my whole life. Bar maybe my boy Jasper, who's a very sweet boy. Kit's got a little bit more feistiness to her that Jasper just didn't have. If he was ever like annoyed that I was touching him too much, he'd just be like, okay. And put his hand on my hand and be like, that's enough. Whereas Kit will be like, stop touching me. Black cats, you either know them and love them, or you don't know them and so you hate them. Maybe. Potentially. Perhaps. If you're a psychopath. Or if you're superstitious. There's a really complex and diverse history of love and hate relationships with black cats and humans throughout time, and this can depend on things like culture and also what's happening at the time, religious fear-mongering, historical misconceptions, superstition, or even just because you're annoyed that your cat seems to be predispositioned to be fossicking up your furniture wherever they go. See what I did there? Used a big new word that I just learned the other day. Fossicking. Anyways, the discrimination that black cats have faced throughout history and even today is rooted in a labyrinth of historical, cultural and religious layers that we are going to unravel in today's video essay, Are Black Cats Evil? So let's talk about early symbolism of black cats. In ancient Egypt, they were worshipped, revered, particularly because they looked a lot like a goddess called Bastet, who would often take the form of a black cat, and she symbolised things like the home, fertility, protection, and she also assumed the symbolism of a lion as well, a lioness. That meant that, black cats at the time were really worshipped and revered because they reminded the ancient Egyptians of gods. And this also meant that they had similar associations with the home, fertility and protection. Any harm that was brought onto a cat during this time period, regardless of colour, because every single cat was worshipped at this time period, but particularly the black cat, was considered such a heinous crime it would be held to the same standard that, crimes against humans would be held. And it was worthy of immense punishment. I wish we'd kept the same sentiment today, but instead people usually just get like £100 fine for doing the most heinous shit to animals, so, and I don't know who that fine's going to. That cat don't care. That animal doesn't care about money, but whatever. And in Celtic and Norse cultures, all cats, including black cats, were seen as magical protective beings, believed to bring good fortune. This meant that during that time period, black cats often found themselves as a common companion of the people in that time, and in these early European cultures. I've noticed myself from my own travels that, whether or not a cat is loved or hated really does depend on where you are in the world. There have been times where I've gone on holiday and in one country, cats are literally adored, and I'm talking like escorted round by security. Like, I think the first time I went to Italy, there was a funeral museum that I wanted to check out because I wanted to see what that was like. It was really cool. And there were a few cats that lived there, and when we asked about it, they essentially said those cats lived there, and we happened to be there at like dinner feeding time, I guess, and the security came and escorted the cats to dinner, and it was just so funny watching this tiny little cat in between all these big security guards walking it to its dinner, and it's walking through this really grand hallway with a garden in the middle because we were kind of in like the courts, and the garden is like a cemetery with loads of gravestones, and then it was just awesome. And we found like cats sleeping in like these little ancient scrolls that had spells on them to bring your lover back from the dead, because obviously this is a funeral death museum, so it's talking about all these things. It was just such a great experience, and you could really see they really cared about the cats. Whereas there have been other countries I've been to where they don't really care about the cats. They see them more as like a pest. And there's literally cats like giving birth on top of stock boxes outside of shops. So there's just like, you know, too many cats for people to kind of function. So it really does depend on where you go in terms of how they get treated. And it also depends on the individual as well, if you do love animals or if you don't. And I think that goes without saying. But my main point is, originally, cats were revered and honoured, worshipped and loved. They were seen as equals, if not superior, to humans, and worthy of the same treatment, respect and love. History, unfortunately, has a different story to tell. So let's address the black cat in the room. Kit, get in here. Let's address the elephant in the room. The association with witches. Yes, this is going to come up. I know it's spoken about time and time again, but it's important, and that's why we talk about it time and time again. But I say witches with quotes as well because, come on, like it's not witches as we would think of them today. It is, you know, anyone could have been a witch. It was likely to be someone who was on the outskirts of society and deemed no longer useful. So that would be single women, the elderly, anyone who was disabled during the 1700s, anyone who didn't live in society and kind of lived on the outskirts, so literally like in the woods or whatever, effeminate men or men that were married to the women of those accused, and literally any woman. Pick one in the room, point, and you've probably found yourself a witch. So those are the people we're talking about when I say witches. It could even just be someone who grew better crops than you, and you kind of wanted to make sure you didn't get the heat for not growing good crops that season, and so you're like, you know what it was, that witch neighbour Susie next door put a curse on my crops so hers would be better, and then you'd literally accuse them, and then that was it. Susie's gone. There were also like symbols that could kind of signify that a person was a witch at the time, and that could be like you had a broom, and who is more likely to have a broom than women, who are more likely to be doing the domestic labour, aka sweeping all the dust out of your front door with a broom. On top of that, if you had any sort of animals within your vicinity that were deemed like devil animals, so that could be cats, blackbirds, toads and goats as well. So why is that? Why those animals more so than any other type of animal? Well, these animals are scavenging animals mostly, and so they would typically loiter around your house waiting for scraps, you know, in the Middle Ages, waiting for scraps to kind of come out your window or out your back door. These animals were really hard to avoid, especially in a domestic setting, which made pointing the finger all the more easy. I literally just tossed some treats down to my little gremlin down the stairs. Like, she's such a treaty monster, honestly. I was feeding my sister's cat and then I heard her like running up the stairs. I was like, calm down, here you go. Anyways, during the Middle Ages, black cats began to be associated with witches in Europe. Cats being nocturnal and mysterious kind of linked them to the supernatural. Their dark coats were often thought to be an identifier of the most evil creatures among cats, coining them the witch's familiar, a creature that disguises itself as a pet and assists a witch in their craft. In 1233, Pope Gregory IX issued the papal bull Vox in Rama, which is essentially the papal decree, which explicitly linked black cats to devil worship. I'm sorry if I butchered all of that. This decree significantly contributed to the vilification of black cats and led to widespread persecution, including their mass killings. During the witch trials of the 16th and 17th centuries, black cats were often destroyed alongside women accused of witchcraft. This association further cemented their societal status as symbols of evil, and some historians even suggested that the mass killings of cats in Europe may likely have contributed to the spread of the Black Death, as the rat population, carriers of the plague, were left unchecked. We now know this to for sure be true. But in more recent history, the superstition of black cats seemed to work in their favour a little bit. So while black cats didn't necessarily have a widely recognised symbolic role in World War II, they did carry personal and cultural significance for many soldiers and civilians, which is why you'll see a lot of imagery online of, like, if you look up World War II images, there are black cats in like all of those photos. In many cultures, black cats were seen as like good luck charms, contrary to their association with bad luck in Western European traditions. Soldiers often kept or carried animals, including black cats, as mascots or good luck to ward off misfortune. They were also used as great morale boosters because, of course, they were great for emotional support and companionship during a really stressful time. Black cats may have been a popular companion at the time simply because they were readily available as well, and their striking appearance made them memorable in photos in that time. Black cats had a mysterious and intriguing reputation in folklore, which might have added to their allure for soldiers who enjoyed their mystique. During World War II, superstition was still relatively common, and having a mysterious pet might have added a sense of personal protection, because no one really wants to fuck with someone who has a black cat if you believe black cats can, impart bad luck onto you. Practical reasons also played a role. Cats, regardless of their colour, were often kept to control rodents in military barracks, naval ships and field bases. A black cat may have been coincidentally photographed but served the same purpose as other cats in that time period. Some units unofficially adopted mascots, including cats, which were featured in photos and artwork. A black cat might have stood out as a dramatic or humorous mascot for a unit or a squad. While black cats themselves didn't hold a specific, widespread role in the war, their cultural association and practical use likely contributed to their occasional appearances in World War II imagery as well. It's safe to say that historically, black cats had a really horrible time of it, and it didn't really benefit humans to hate them either with the Black Death situation. So now we're going to be talking about luck, because I think luck needed its whole own category, because there is such a thing of, are black cats bad luck? So I think it needed its whole section. So the conflicting belief that black cats can either be good or bad luck based on superstition has been so widespread over the centuries that it deserved its own category in this video. So, are they good or bad luck? The idea that black cats are harbingers of bad luck is a widely spread belief across Western Europe. In some cultures, crossing the path of a black cat was seen as an omen of misfortune or death, and that is still a prevalent image overused in today's media. Fun story, one time I was in my dad's car waiting for him to come out of a doctor's appointment, and a black cat walked past the car this way, and I thought, oh, that's cool. And then another one crossed my path again on the opposite side, and I thought, okay, a bit spooky. And then a third one crossed, and this one didn't have a tail, and I was like, okay, something's going on. Maybe they just have like their own little meetings and they had broken up the meeting, who knows. But in other regions of the world, black cats are culturally considered lucky. In Japan, for example, black cats are symbols of prosperity and good fortune. Similarly, British soldiers kept black cats aboard ships, believing they would ensure safe voyage. This was also factually true, as keeping a feline companion on board your ship would help solve your pest problems. If there's, less rats who could potentially spread diseases on board, then technically that cat was lucky and did in fact improve your safety and health. But, they didn't know about diseases at the time, and they didn't know that, the more mice you get rid of, the kind of healthier, safer you'll be. So they didn't really know that, but they just knew for whatever reason you're less likely to get sick when a cat's on board, so keep one on board. All they really knew is that they were great pest control and they were really cute and cuddly. Likewise, when black cats were kind of mass executed in the 16th and 17th century witch trials, black plague cases drastically increased. Without the cats to control the pests, which unbeknownst to the population at the time were carriers of the plague, people were more vulnerable to the disease. So technically, they were kind of cursed without the black cats to keep them safe. So, cat good luck, cat not bad luck, unless you harm cat or remove cat from ship, then bad luck. Religion. So, of course, you can't really mention the word discrimination without also talking about a priest with full-size pockets standing behind it. So, as Scooby-Doo always said, it's always a man in a mask. So, the discrimination against black cats is rooted in historical misconceptions and superstition, often linked to periods of intense religious favour and societal fear of the unknown, aka the more religious a time period is and the more fear-mongering a church does to keep you coming to their doors, the more likely it is that you're gonna be harming not only other people but also black cats too, aka the witch trials. But why? Well, if you believe that a black cat crossing your path was either the devil in disguise or a witch's familiar sent to torment you, wouldn't you rush off to the nearest church for a blessing and prayer frenzy with the local priest? It was in the church's best interest, for financial gain and popularity, to encourage these superstitions, adding fuel to the fire. The more you feared the devil in black cats or in anything at all, the more pressing the need for religious supposed protection and intervention. The association of black cats with bad luck and witchcraft began in the Middle Ages. By the 13th century, the Catholic Church had linked black cats to Satan, calling them companions of witches. This idea gained traction during the witch trials of the 16th and 17th centuries, especially during the Salem witch trials in America, where black cats were often seen as omens of dark magic, or even witches, demons, or the devil in disguise. Cultural differences. So it does depend what culture you have as to whether or not you're going to love or hate black cats as well. As with everything, culture can make a difference here. So superstitions about black cats can vary widely across cultures. In Scotland and Japan, as I said, they were seen as symbols of good fortune. Scottish folklore suggests a black cat on your doorstep predicted prosperity, while Japanese women believed owning a cat can attract suitors. Similarly, sailors in Britain once viewed black cats as lucky mascots, ensuring safe voyages. This can also be because cats were and still are fantastic pest control on board, as I mentioned, often awarding the cat an official job as mouse catcher, and they get a little cat passport for proof with their official job as well on there. There's this one that I saw on Instagram a few years ago that I just thought was adorable. You can tell he takes his job seriously. Domesticated cats today are one of the, if not the top predator in the world, with one of the highest kill counts, due to the speed, precision, and quantity of their catch as well. In contrast, many Western countries view a black cat crossing your path as a harbinger of bad luck and misfortune. They're often depicted in horror movies and other forms of media as a messenger of impending doom or death, or just as a familiar, entering or exiting a scene just as the movie baddie is about to reveal themselves and the spooky music kicks in. This dichotomy reflects the broad spectrum of beliefs about black cats globally. What you believe dictates how that cat is treated, and no matter whether you believe they're good or evil, it doesn't change the fact that at the end of the day it's still just a cat in it. The whole time everyone's running around like, oh, these evil, these scary things, and they're just sitting there cleaning their balls like, it's just a cat in it at the end of the day. The feminine feline. So this is something I really wanted to talk about because I think it's really important, and I think the more you talk about it and educate people, the more likely we are to tackle this and kind of solve it together. So both women and black cats have historically been scapegoats for misfortune, diseases, or bad luck, a pattern deeply entrenched in patriarchal culture. So, violence against symbols of femininity. We have to move on to the obvious, which is that cats have a connection to femininity. How often have you heard the term dog is man's best friend and crazy cat lady? The idea that dogs are somehow connected to the masculine and therefore men, and cats are connected to femininity and therefore women, is not a new notion by any means. But in today's modern period, the demonization of black cats poses the most risk to a cat's life. Cats, more so than other animals, are typically the victims of animal abuse and unaliving, especially during Halloween periods. This is because underlying misogynistic attitudes can and often do translate into aggression against animals symbolically linked to women, like black cats, for example. Acts of violence towards black cats can reflect underlying societal disdain or fear of women and their perceived power. The association of black cats with women, particularly in a negative context, is rooted in a combination of historical superstition, folklore, and misogyny. And it can perpetuate harmful stereotypes that contribute to violence against both women and animals. The demonization. When people were accused of witchcraft, over 80%, accused being women, they were often depicted as identifiably a witch if they owned a black cat, which was seen as their familiar. This stereotype linked black cats directly to women, especially older, unmarried, or independent women who defied societal norms. Misogynistic fear and suspicion of women's power or independence often fueled witch hunts, targeting women alongside their supposed feline companions. During the Middle Ages and the early modern period, black cats became symbols of witchcraft in European folklore. So the superstition. Black cats were sometimes viewed as embodying feminine traits such as mystery and intrigue, which patriarchal societies deemed dangerous and untrustworthy. These associations often played into fears about women who were perceived as enigmatic or non-conforming. Attacking black cats can serve as a proxy for targeting the broader, more intangible fears or disdain for women and femininity. But every time I hear this connection of cats to femininity and dogs to men, none of it makes sense, to be honest. I can debunk all of it, and at the end of the day, they're their whole own separate species, with both female and male beings in that species as well. So I really don't see why people take these stereotypes about cats and dogs so seriously. At the end of the day, it's just an animal, and you can get male versions of cats too, right? Why are you attacking them? It just makes no sense to me, personally, because I got more than 2 brain cells pushing together. But why it persists today, pop culture, and how about now? This is a summary of combating the problem. To sum it up, see what I did there? Are black cats evil? No, but people are, and I think that's clear. Particularly the males. While the demonization of black cats isn't as profound as it was throughout history, these beliefs still linger today. The discrimination against black cats stems from a mix of historical superstition, religious persecution, misogyny, and cultural symbolism. Over time, these ideas become ingrained in certain societies. Even though most people no longer believe in witchcraft or devil worship, the association persists through folklore, media, and traditions like Halloween. Don't get me wrong, I love Halloween, but it does still exist. And I can't deny that. So black cats are now a staple of Halloween imagery, thanks to their historical association with witches and the supernatural. Their sleek, dark appearance fits the aesthetic of mystery and spookiness. However, this connection has often led to their mistreatment or abandonment, especially around Halloween, when superstition is at its peak. Stories associating women, black cats, and witchcraft are still popular in media today and in folklore. This could be a potential reason as to how this old stereotype is still being reinforced today. In contemporary Western culture, black cats are often associated with Halloween, reinforcing their connection to the supernatural and spooky imagery. This has kept some of the old superstitions alive today. Don't get me wrong. I love a good black cat ornament that I can get in TK Maxx every time Halloween rolls around. But at the same time, I'd also like Halloween to swing around without me worrying about my cat's safety. Fun story, not so fun. My cat went missing close to Halloween time, and I was panicking because she is an all black cat. And initially I was like, just stay calm, you'll find her, it will be all good. I went onto our community page for this town, and 2 other black cats on my street had gone missing that night with her, and I was like, oh my god, somebody's doing something, because 3 black cats and the number 3 is spooky, and you took them all on this street. Catnapper, out and about somewhere, got my baby. So I was panicking a lot, but don't worry, I found her the next day. She was up a tree. But the point still stands that, when Halloween time comes around, I do worry about my cat's safety and the safety of all black cats, because it is something to worry about. It's still a very pressing issue. The adoptions of black cats usually increases around Halloween time, but not for a good purpose. So it's a very scary time period for black cats, because discrimination against them, this hatred and this superstition still really exists today. And that discrimination exists in kind of subtler forms as well as much bigger ones, as I spoke about with the abuse and potential unaliving. But the more subtle forms is that black cats are less likely, alongside black and white cats, to be picked for rehoming at shelters because they're less likely to be photogenic. And unfortunately, a lot of people do tend to adopt animals for the quick cash grab online for some views, and then they usually dump or abandon them or return them to the shelter because they were only really using them for the views. So of course, if black cats and black and white cats don't photograph well, they're not going to get picked. They are less frequently adopted out, partly due to the lingering superstitions, and also because they're perceived as less photogenic in the age of social media. So to address these issues, there are 3 main things we can continue to do. 1 is education. Teaching the history of these stereotypes can dispel myths and reduce superstition. 2, animal welfare advocacy. Protecting black cats through awareness campaigns and shelter policies, so that can be preventing adoptions around Halloween time to reduce harm. Challenging misogyny. So recognizing and addressing the connections between violence against women and symbolic acts like harming animals can help to dismantle underlying prejudice. By understanding these historical and cultural links, society can work towards breaking down harmful stereotypes that lead to such violence. We're already beginning to see how education on this topic is leading to positive progress. Many organisations and individuals celebrate black cats for their beauty and their unique history. For example, we now have Black Cat Appreciation Day. Hey, it's the 17th of August, so celebrate it. Post about black kitty cats on that day. This is definitely an example of efforts that can be really positive in combating stigma and celebrating these often misunderstood animals. Despite their troubled history, black cats are finding a new appreciation. Their sleek, mysterious appearance, combined with a growing awareness of their history, is helping to shift the narrative. Today, many animal advocates emphasize their charm and uniqueness, aiming to dispel old superstitions once and for all. This is why learning history and having access to information through books is so important to keep people informed and prevent them from repeating cycles. But there's still a really long way to go in destigmatizing these animals, along with many others dubbed, the devil's animal like goats, toads, and blackbirds. Echoes of the past still linger in the treatment of black cats today, with many mistreating the animal through misunderstanding and unfounded fear. The new negative stereotype that circulates pop culture now is that black cats don't photograph well. I think you'll find that the evidence is enough to prove contrary to that belief. I rest my case. Another issue with rehoming is that there are a lot of people posing as, loving long-term families, but actually they're just looking to make like a quick cash grab for some views, some praise, before they usually return or dump that animal, giving them an even deeper wound of trauma. No animal deserves this kind of treatment, so if you're not serious about the commitment it takes to have a pet, literally never get one. Like, ever. Not as a gift to a kid who cannot understand the level of responsibility, and nor as a temporary fix for a life problem. These are living beings, and they deserve to be loved by the right person. Rehoming and shelters. Seriously, if you do have a good home with plenty of space and you have the time and energy to care for a pet and the resources and financial ability to commit to them, then please consider adopting a black cat today. It's often a reality that they don't make it out of shelters and might spend their whole life without knowing what it's like to live in a loving home with a family. The shelters are full to the brim right now. There's been a drastic increase in cat abandonment, especially with, in general, pet abandonment because of inflation and things like that. So shelters are really full to the brim at the minute, to the point that they're actually rejecting accepting any more animals into the shelter. They just don't have the space or the resources. So we're gonna go through some cuties that are at Battersea Cats and Dog Home, and we're also gonna go through some from the Cat Cafe, just so I can show you what's out there, what's on offer, Where's my phone? One thing I will say about Battersea Cats and Dogs Home, though, is that they don't want to give anyone a fucking pet. Like, they are like, oh, you can't have that one because she's kind of old, she doesn't want to move, so, and I'm like, okay, what about that one? And then they're like, well, the thing is, they're brand new. We just got those ones in. And I'm like, okay, how about those? And they're like, well, my friend Susie might want that. That's the only thing with Battersea Cats and Dogs Home, They really don't want to give you one. But here are some of the ones that they got on offer right now, okay? Okay, so there's lots of cats and dogs at Battersea Cats and Dogs Home, but we're specifically going to be looking at the black and white and the black cuties. which quite a few have been reserved, which is good news. But Turnip is still available. He is a domestic short hair, age 1 and 6 months. Oh, he's beautiful. Oh my goodness. Look at that little face. How could you not? How could you not want this cutie pie? Oh, it's a girl dragon. Of course it's a girl dragon. It's a girl. It's a lady. Can live with any children of any age. Can live with dogs. Doesn't want to live with other cats. Ain't that a story as old as time? They really hate other cats. They're just very territorial. They're like, this is my human, my bed, my house, my rules. Okay? And they can fit any ideal home location. So it seems Batsy Cats and Dogs Home have lowered the bar lately, so that's good for us. I can meet a low bar. Then we've got Tammy, another lady. I had to double check, make sure I got it right this time. Another lady, 14 years, 11 months. Oh, I love the old bitches. They're so cute. They're so sweet, because, you know, they got limited time. And, like, I feel like you should adopt those more than you should adopt a kitten, because they've got limited time and, like, they might never know what it's like to be loved by a family in a family home. And you should really jump on that opportunity. There were so many old ladies that I wanted to adopt, but they just wouldn't let me. So, you know, if you got the means, definitely do it. Look at this. Look at this thing. She's so cute. And she's got, you know, a nice little tuxedo on. She's a professional woman. You could bring her to work settings. Maybe, you know, if your boss let you. Then we've got Kaiser, who is absolutely gorgeous. My goodness. That is a cute pie. Oh, it's playful, you know. So this kitty cat is 4 years and 2 months. This one is a male. I knew it. No, I'm joking. I thought this was a girl. Like, honestly, all the boy cats are so pretty. I always think they're the girls. And you know, yeah, they got some requirements. But they're a very energetic one. They're very affectionate. Oh, you know what as well? Shelter cats are so fucking affectionate and loving. Like, they will love you to the end of time. They'll cuddle, they'll snuggle, because they know what it's like to live on the streets. So then when they get into your bed, they're like, that's nice. This is you right here. And they get all comfortable because they haven't had that before. Whereas, like, if you just buy a cat, then that cat, you know, is going to be like, I'm used to beds and sheets without a person in it, so get out. Like, you know, they ain't gonna want to cuddle with you. So if you want a cuddly cat, you've got to go for a shelter one. Okay, now we're gonna be looking at this cat cafe. Don't get me wrong, I don't really know how ethical these are. Most of the time they're not very ethical. However, I will say with this one, when I've gone there and I sort of asked them about the process and stuff, those cats are in and out within like 2 weeks. People really love those. It's a great way to promote those cats. These are cats that are like sort of taken from bad situations off the street and things like that to be rehomed, which is fantastic. They don't hold on to the cats and keep them there as a cash grab, but they actually rehome them as well. So I think this one would be okay, but don't quote me on it. But they have 2 features. So they basically have a cat lounge and a kitten lounge, and you can pick to adopt from either. I'm going to take a look at the cat lounge. I will show you the kitty lounge, but they've got 2 locations, Marylebone and White City as well. And you can, the good thing is you can pay for like a day to like visit. You can visit, you can interact, you can see them, and then make your decision on which one you want. So you get that kind of interactive experience as well. So with the cat lounge, there's lots of cutie pies here. Donna, little Donna kebab, very cute. Then we're going to go to the White City cat lounge. I will look at the kitten lounge. I just really want, if any of you want to adopt, I really want you to adopt a cat, not a kitten. Then we've got William, he's gorgeous. We've got Cheesy. We got Nova. These are all pretty. I like these ones. They usually have black cats galore, but I'm guessing they've all been snatched up. Let's take a look at the kittens. Oh, Velvet. Oh my god, look at Velvet. Female, born 2024. She's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. Sorry lads, hold on. The light's gone. Okay, and then we've got Fabian and Tyler. Look at these babies. This one's another male, born 2024. And this crazy one's another male again, born 2024. And they're looking for a friend before they can be adopted out. And I like that. So this place actually adopts them out in pairs. I don't know if they do that with the cats because it's a little bit trickier with cats. But with the kittens, they do that. As a rule, you have to get two. So yeah, that is just a quick look into some of the cats that are out there that you could adopt and take care of, because they need some loving. They've been really discriminated against. They got a bad rap being paired in with us. Unfortunately, we're a hated group, but it's because we're special. So go and get one and take care of them and love them if you can. And also as well, kittens have like so much high energy that they also become a high maintenance pet to take care of because they need 24/7 round the clock interaction, whereas older cats are more like chill, mellow. They'll just sleep all day. You might need to play with them once or twice. They like treats, they like cuddles. Like they're more cuddly than kittens as well because they've not got all that energy. So they're low maintenance, they're easier to take care of. And I will say, out of all the pets in the world that you could possibly have, cats are the lowest of maintenance animals you can get. They're cheap, they're affordable, they don't need much. Also, they're safer being indoor pets, so they don't need walking. They have longer life expectancies and life enjoyment if they're just indoor pets, unless they've grown up outdoors and need it. But if they've never really experienced that, then they don't really give a shit. So they're really, really good to have as a pet. And also when you adopt rather than buy, the upfront fee is so much lower because they've already been defleed, dewormed, neutered and potentially microchipped as well, so you won't need to pay like $2,000 up front for all of those things. Instead, you can just pay the fee to adopt the cat, which is potentially like a tenner, and that tenner is going towards something good as well, like taking care of the other cats at the shelter. It will also help reduce the issue of like overbreeding, because if we stop funding that sort of industry where people are just breeding their cats constantly, selling them, making a quick buck, will end their suffering, but also it will be more likely that we'll encourage people to get their cats neutered and potentially stop overbreeding, which will also help with the whole overpopulation issue and the lack of space in shelters. So it's just so much better to adopt through a shelter as well. And I will say, even though I love Kit more than anything in the world, I would never, ever, ever trade her in for another kitty cat. And I would never regret ever going to get her. I will say I've reflected on it, and in the future I would 100% get from a shelter rather than purchase a cat. Not only will it be safer for me when I actually go and try and purchase that cat, but it will also just be so much better in terms of like ethically. So even though I love Kit more than anything, I don't know how ethical it was kind of purchasing her in that way. So links to adopt those cats will be in the description box below. So if you want to go adopt, go check that out. Only if you have like the means and the time to, take care of them and give them a better life than being in, a cramped shelter. So yeah, to sum up, no, black cats are not evil, but people are, and the way they treat them are. So black cats are more than their myth. They embody beauty, mystery, and resilience. By learning their history and addressing the biases against them, we can finally learn to appreciate them. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!